You like doing that, don't you?
He loves it.
That mustache is...
It's coming in real thick.
Do you know whenever you make that face, I think of like Gozer
Welcome
from
to
like
the Grappling with Podcast.
Ghostbusters.
Dr. Chris Hardy and
Or
Lauren
something
Walker
like that.
will take a deep
That one?
dive into
Yeah.
topics covering wellness and prevention,
You know what it's from?
performance,
Snarl.
recovery, and injury
No.
management.
Ace Ventura.
Our
Oh.
mission is to provide the latest science-based information to help you get the most out of your
Now I can't
grappling
unsee
journey,
it.
both on and
The
off the
mustache,
mats,
yeah.
and help you overcome
You
any
ever see
challenges you
when
may be grappling
I got
with.
bit right
Dr.
here
Hardy
by
is a licensed physician and BJJ practitioner, but the contents of the podcast are meant for educational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice.
Freaking
Please seek
weirdo.
out personalized care from your own medical provider
That's
prior
what it's
to
for.
implementing any medical treatment or intervention.
Bill is a licensed buffoon. He says things that are a little squirrely. Do not hold these things against his
It's coming
gym
in pretty
mates,
good, though.
his family, Chris Hardy, Harry Hardy,
coming in.
or anybody at his gym.
I'll take it.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, nice
That went
mustache.
Greet me.
Greet you.
You're distracted by my push broom.
Yeah, if you want to call it that, whatever.
Well, it is more of a push broom because my whiskers on my mustache are thick. I got some redwoods.
Yeah.
I don't got a lot, but I got some thickness
You know why I don't grow one?
because it's patchy.
It looks like pubic hair. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar to a certain black belt in our gym.
Which one?
The one that is trying to grow a mustache.
Oh, right. Yeah, but, you know. I told him. I was like, yeah.
You look icky.
He's doing his best.
Hey, he is. And that's what, hey, trust me.
Someone
I get
could
it.
say you look icky.
I
too.
do look icky, and I get it. I had the cops called on me when I was walking past the elementary school.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But
If you borrowed Jake's van, you'd be,
Oh dear.
yeah, it'd be a
Put
little
an
rough.
ice cream
Heck yeah.
song.
you see
you
Jake
imagine-
and I.
Oh, I just saw Jake today. You can imagine you and Jake riding together in his van.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I could actually.
That'd be,
I'd sit on his lap.
you guys be arrested very quickly.
Yeah.
It's true. You would definitely.
When we were illegally dumping some stuff in this one dumpster the other day, it was pretty legit.
Great.
I was so dumb. So it was like we were dumping this garbage bag full of, it was basically a dump run. Just we broke into this place. It was like Fight Club when we're throwing stuff, you know, and the fat drips all over you.
Oh, God.
I had that scenario because the bag, we had bagged this, it was like old.
And just to be clear, it wasn't human fat from the liposuction place.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
So, but it looked like it.
Okay.
And it felt like it on my
It
skin.
looked like it.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
So the bag had stuff in it for so long because we had packaged it and just put it in the garage, and it was like perishable or non-perishable food, but it had gone bad. And we were just getting rid of some of the crappier foods. So there was old tomato sauce, glass containers and stuff like that. And the bag was so old that when I hoisted that thing above my head and I went to just toss it.
That's a rookie move.
Rookie move. As you try to shot put it,
Yep. I know exactly.
your hand basically goes through the bag,
Oh, that's unfortunate.
which then opens the bag, and everything just fell
disgusting.
on me. And then this glass container of ragu, tomato sauce,
Or it used to be.
used to be a big one too, just explodes everywhere. That was the first bag of the illegal dumping we did.
So 2 public service announcements here. One is don't dump illegally. The other is
Right.
don't get caught.
Didn't get caught, so wasn't illegal. And
That's been your life's mantra, hasn't it?
a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, actually. I've carried that one quite a ways.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
Legit. All right.
It's a family thing.
Well, awesome.
Shout out to my mom. She just retired 2 days ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Yep. She just had her birthday yesterday.
That's awesome. Both happy birthday and retirement. That's great.
Big ups, Mom.
My mom that's the best thing she did. She's
Yeah.
so happy in retirement.
Yeah. She's still living at that one nudist suburb.
You better be careful. She'll come and bust your ass, dude.
Just
My
wonder if
mom's
she's still
feisty.
living the free bird life.
You know, I'm not commenting on shit.
Yeah.
Dude. You're gonna dig your own grave.
That gets weird.
because she's gonna come out here very soon.
She might just walk through the door. Also, just so people, because I know they're wondering, First sponsor of the show.
Oh, the people that are watching on YouTube.
Oh, yes, that's true.
So you're holding up a muffin.
I'm holding up a delicious muffin. If you can see the quality of the sugary top. This is strawberry. Just give you a peek under the skirt a little bit, but
Look at
don't
that.
get too excited.
Yeah.
From Trader Joe's. First sponsor from Trader Joe's.
It's got a good stump.
It does. The stump is
The
good.
stump is legit.
Yeah, I knew you would notice the stump first
Yeah.
because you're more of a stump kind of guy.
Yeah. I do like the stump.
Yeah, trust we all know. And then, but it's gluten free, packed with sugar.
I was gonna say it must be healthy if it's gluten free.
So what I do is I eat some cookies and then I eat a gluten free muffin, which then overpowers.
It zeroes out.
And then a
It
Diet
zeroes it
Coke,
out.
right?
Yes. So I'll be munching on that throughout the.
Sounds good.
So thank you for Trader Joe's for sponsoring us. We know you're listening.
And I'll try not to make weird noises with my mouth because it pisses people off.
Actually, you know what's funny about that?
Yeah, a guy commented
We
about that.
got a comment on
Recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I commented back.
Oh, did you?
I did.
You're a sassy little bitch, aren't you?
Yeah, he said I was some kind of, what kind of dog did he
Well,
call me?
I'll read this one. It says Mike O'Hara, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
Big fan. He starts it off letting us know he's a big fan.
Yeah. But,
Didn't even say but.
yeah. Oh, I know.
He's
but,
going right into it.
I know.
Can we get the good doctor to sip some water every now and again so I don't have to hear him smack like an Irish setter
With,
eating peanut butter?
there you go. So I thought that's a very good comment.
Other than that, excellent.
And see my reply on there.
I'm scared.
Oh, I can view. Doing the best I can with what I have. I think I am more like a golden retriever. Thanks. No, I would put you more as a bull mastiff.
Okay. So first of all, I'm not a good doctor. We've established that.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's not water, sun, it's element. So, and I do have a big thing of it.
Oh, you're gonna get technical. It's element, not
Yeah,
water.
that's right. Well, if you're going to make comments on
You poured
YouTube,
element in your water. Go ahead, take a sip. Make him
I
feel
will.
like an asshole. No, up to the mic.
I've been doing it the whole time.
Do it. Up to the mic. Slurp it.
You know
Don't
what?
lean.
Actually, Bill, it's better that he said it's element because I don't know if you knew this, but there's like apparently, and I don't know if it's still trending, but on TikTok, there's called water bars. Have you heard of this?
No.
This is where people make little bars like a coffee bar, but instead they have pumps full of like flavored sugar, and they add it to their water or like flavored water packets and they call it water bar. And they're like, I'm making my water. And people are like, that ain't water no more.
Why don't you just have a soda bar? The same damn thing.
Dude. I
Because
don't
they
know.
want to feel healthy by drinking water, but they've put so much sugar and other crap in it, it's
See,
no longer water.
dude, this is why old people get grumpy. I'm just telling you, dude. I don't even know what
tired
to
of it.
say anymore, dude. I'm like, just, oh my God. Anyway,
Well, with that, to piss you off again,
yes, awesome.
someone else made a comment. This communist supporter. He says, please bring Nikita back. That was really weird how Bill knows I'm a chubby Mexican. I don't know who this is.
Was this Nikita who said it?
There's a good chance, or he paid a chubby Mexican to say it, because someone wants Nikita back on the podcast. They went all the way back to an old one.
Actually, I do want to have him back on because I want him to talk about his weight loss journey.
Oh,
yeah.
that would be good. Chris is taking a hit off his,
I know I got a nice shot of it.
what are those things called?
It's an albuterol inhaler.
What's the normal name for it?
Albuterol.
It's just you mean
The
inhaler?
thing that a nerd would, when
An
they're
inhaler?
like getting an inhaler. That's
I
what
said
it
it's an albuterol inhaler.
yeah, but when you throw a big ass word like that, it
Oh
just
my
throws us
God.
off. Or simpletons.
Okay.
So, but we did have another cool comment that actually came in just an
Okay.
hour ago.
All right.
It says they listened to the cop episode with Kyle Hiller, and they said, just listen to the episode. I'm Sergeant Figueroa with Moretta PD,
Ooh.
because I think that they got brought up.
Moretta down in Georgia. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning us. We actually just implemented a mandatory training day for all officers at our PD. BJJ is definitely a tool that we need to spread to all departments.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
Hey, man.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Is assuming this is not Nikita.
You piece of shit. If it is Nikita, I'm literally going to
Assuming
bite your
this
balls
is
off.
actually who it says it is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and it's our pleasure keep doing the good work you're doing, and hopefully that spreads nationwide more and more. Because we have several police officers and law enforcement officers in general at our gym.
Yeah,
and I think our community is better for it. So
yeah, for sure. So that's
cool. That's a great
cool
comment, as long as it's not Nikita.
That'd be amazing if Nikita went all the way back there just to make that comment.
Oh, he totally would.
Well, that's true. He
has a slow day at work.
He's like out camping, but he's actually
he goes, I'm going to get those guys again.
trolling us.
He just got out of my shit list too.
Yeah.
Finally, from the first one, the Kyle Bain one.
Yeah. Such a little Zelensky.
It was excellent though. All right. So that's a cool comment. So what do we have any?
Yeah, we got some. I just want to also do a shout out to Alex Tapia. He says his wife wears socks in bed, and he's very sus about her alliance with America because she wears socks and she I think sleeps with socks. I get it, dude.
I would be concerned.
I get it.
I would be concerned.
It's a red flag.
Send me her social. We'll run her through ice. Check her out. But yeah, we do have an interesting question that came in that we came about this question through some people that don't actually train in our gym. They're in the community and they do train. Liv, you're better at wording this question because I already forgot
Just
it.
in general. In general, she's better at wording.
Sorry. What was that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stumble over everything right now.
Oh
Good.
God. I
already started.
I just propped you up.
Just teed them up.
Gosh.
Okay, so you want me to ask it?
Do it.
Okay. What do you do if you go to a gym that doesn't have a mat enforcer? Is that what we're talking about?
So the gym, So the gym that you're at,
Yeah.
you're not just visiting. You're at a gym.
It's your gym.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's your home gym.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one. 'Cause we've talked about mat enforcers before.
Yeah.
They're good for visitors. They're good for new people that come in to chill them out. But they're also good to correct members sometimes, where you see some people, typically guys, that are maybe over aggressive with smaller people.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Especially when you get maybe a big old strapping tall drink of water and they see like a blue belt or a purple belt, female or small person, and they're pretty big. They feel they can just go as hard as possible. And that kind of creates a danger. And a mat enforcer, quote unquote, typically can help control that and put it on that person. And then even educate them after and be like, see how much it sucks when you just put all that strength and effort. It doesn't always have to, sometimes it's just a pure ass kicking.
Yeah.
Sometimes that has to happen. But a lot of time, if you can, as the enforcer, you make it educational.
Absolutely. And that's what we should try to do.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation, of course.
Sure. So what if you're at a gym?
Okay.
And
Let's say it's a newer gym, maybe.
Probably, or even if it's been around, but let's say you're at a gym and it's a little loosey-goosey. There's not really, what do you do if there's no identified, like someone like, okay, this guy, I can always be like, man, that guy
Or someone that's looking out.
Yes.
That's kind of watching the room a little bit.
So maybe it's not a new gym. Maybe it's just a big gym. And the lead professor, he's just not able to catch all that.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
What would you do? If you were the person that's a little concerned, maybe you got completely smashed, you don't feel safe.
So who am I? Who are we talking about?
Let's say you're a white belt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is another the classic situation where you got a newer white belt.
Maybe it's another
in.
white belt. Maybe it's even a blue belt that's not totally in control yet.
What do you do? Well,
yeah, what would be your advice?
My first thing, I always try to handle things at the lowest level possible. In that I would actually talk to the person like, hey, this is what I'm trying to get out of this at this point. Am I,
okay,
just directly talk to them and say, I understand, you have, however you want to say, I'm trying to learn the martial art here. Every match is not, for me, it's not supposed to be ADCC finals and win at all costs. There's time and place for that. But right now, I'm worried about getting hurt rolling with you.
Interesting.
And just And if they take that well, I'm like, oh man, hey, I'm really sorry about that. I just don't know.
Can I be bold?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about going up to the person.
Neither did I.
When this question came about,
Always.
I was like, I didn't even think about, you know why? Because I think my ego was in there. And I was like, I don't want them to look at me like I'm a puss.
But, you know, it's
I mean, people expect it out of you. Hey, he's on fire. Just like Saturday. I taught class on Saturday, big class. Mm-hmm. You were my uke for like 75% of the time.
I was.
And I was on fire. I was setting your ass on fire.
It was funny. I was trying to be good uke, and you were just like, I was like the freaking second person in your comedy act.
Yes,
there.
you were. You were my chair.
It was actually very funny.
You, can I just say this though?
Yeah.
You were a great uke.
Thank you.
Very good.
I thought I was good too.
Yeah, you were.
I was very pleased with my performance.
Yeah, it was nice. So I didn't even think about talking to the actual person straight away.
Yeah. Especially if they're new, you know, and say, hey, you know, I understand, you know, you may come from a wrestling background. They may be just big and, you know,
CrossFitter or something.
CrossFit or something like that. I'm like, you know, this is what, you know, I'm, you know, I just say, just put it in their own, say, you know,
what
I'm
if they're not a white belt? What if they outrank you? Would you still make that your first stop? If they're a blue belt, if they're a purple belt, and they're just, man, geez, they always attack the shit out of me.
So then that's that can be a matter of perception too. In that sometimes that blue or purple belt is rolling completely safely with you, but but they're really not giving you any space and dominating and just completely just smushing you.
Right.
It doesn't mean necessarily unsafe, but you may be having a horrible time versus when they're actually wild and just uncontrolled body weight and you're like feeling like you're almost getting hurt. That's two different things.
And I think one of these scenarios can be, because this came from a couple different people, like in different forms, and we're just kind of molding it into one question.
Sure.
I know one of the people are very small, very small. About I think training for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. So you're right at that blue belt, right? So they're not totally foreign to like uncontrolled people. You know, they kind of understand that a bit, I would say, but they're very tiny, right? Yeah. So that person, they can probably tell if, man, they're just being like really like, I can tell when I'm getting smushed or out like techniqued.
So that's a different scenario.
Yes. In that scenario where you feel like you've identified, man, it's not just they're just technically proficient. They're still putting this like tremendous amount of explosive, ballistic movements
with everything they're doing pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I would still talk to them like, hey,
even if you're outranked.
Huh?
Even if you're outranked like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And say, hey, you know, I appreciate you asking me to roll, but I'm really concerned about getting hurt rolling with you.
Go ahead, Liv.
Well, I was just going to ask, what if they're not responsive?
Well, ultimately, it's the responsibility of who's ever running that academy. And then at that point, if they're not responsive, that's what I meant by handling things at the lowest level first, instead of just going right to the professor, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's something egregious.
Because you don't want to create like a weird dynamic. Yes, unless
something egregious, right?
What would egregious have to be?
Picking you up and slamming you, doing something just out where everyone in the gym is like looking over, like, what the F is going on over? You know, that kind of thing. You know, something just ridiculous. But in general, I always try to. It's a military thing we always used to do: handle things at the lowest level possible first, instead of going. But if they're not responsive, then absolutely you can pull your professor aside and say, hey, look, you know, this has been my experience here.
Yeah.
I really don't want to get injured. I really love jiu-jitsu. I want to keep getting better at jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
You know, our professor does a great job at that. Even in situationals, you can see he'll like direct people to certain, you know, see how he does that? You know, I mean, it's great. But with a big academy, it's hard to, I mean, it's such a hard job.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You know, when you're instructing a big class, especially trying to keep an eye on everything.
Yeah, I think Saturday we're 35 plus, and it was like
And that wasn't even, Andrews had
it gets more
Andrews
60,
had 60 in class before. So, but that's when I would go, take the professor aside and say, hey, look, this is the situation. This is how I'm feeling about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then if you're not getting any response, then, you might consider going to another gym.
If
the professor is like, yeah, stop being a pussy and blah, blah, blah.
if you don't get a response from them,
That's what I'm saying.
that's like the actual professor.
Yeah.
Then it could be.
Yeah. Then there's probably bigger problems anyway.
Yeah.
At that gym.
And
If I had to guess,
so I agree completely.
Yeah.
With everything you said, how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
being straightforward, not being shy about just saying like, man, I just don't want to get hurt.
yeah. I mean, getting smashed is one thing.
I've rejected plenty of roles with big, strong fellas in our gym. And I do just say it. I'm like, bro, I just don't want to get hurt. I got too much of a dumb jiu-jitsu style where I put myself in back, which is like, okay, well, why don't you just not do that and work on not doing that? Okay.
But that's what you're working on.
Yeah.
That's You can't, I mean, that's what,
Trying to get better at that. But
Yeah.
in the moment, if I'm going with people that I see are always a part of the recipe when someone gets hurt, then it's like, I gotta look out for myself. And I know I get looked at by certain people as being kind of a weenie about that sort of thing.
I don't think so. That's your prerogative, dude.
Well,
No,
yeah.
I know. But
really
I
is.
know that people will be, they look at me a certain way because I say no to certain roles, but I'm fine with that.
And it's fine, and it might be, hopefully some people, I'm not talking about our gym, but anywhere in that situation would take that maybe for some self-reflection or not, and if they don't, don't be surprised when people stop
rolling with
you, and that's the whole thing. But, and I think you're right though. If you've been training a year and a half, you know the difference between just getting worked, which happens to all of us.
But it is a good point that if you are in your first 6 months,
you
might be hard to tell when you're just getting kind of smushed.
Yeah, if you're getting smushed, which still, and I think we've talked about this many times, where if I have someone new, I'm gonna give them some space to work, right? Because it's not fun for them
Unless they're a spaz.
Well, unless we're trying to do that kind of mat enforcer type of thing, which I, hopefully don't have to do that. But it's nice to kind of roll just above their, but still give them space to work, so we both get something out of the roll.
Yeah.
Instead of just sitting there, because that's not fun.
I actually
for anyone.
had someone tell me that they didn't really want to roll with me somewhat recently
Really?
because my neon belly is a little mean. And I was like, well, I won't do it then. No, I didn't say it like a dickhead. Well, maybe I did because I'm friends with them. Like we're very friendly, we're very cool. So they felt like they could be like, man, I just sometimes, he still rolled with me.
Yeah.
He was like, but he told me he thought about not rolling with me because my neon belly can be a little
That's
gnarly.
just a compliment.
Yeah, but in my head, I was like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't like always ride someone like that.
Maybe I should have put
I would
me in
ar-
there. Yeah.
I would argue, do what makes you feel good, Bill.
Yeah,
If you want, no, I'm just
I want to take a bubble bath.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You want to anyway, but you do have that kind of that Muhammad does so well. Riding, the shin ride type of thing, which is demoralizing because you can't. It's hard to.
It'd be hard to breathe sometimes.
hard to breathe, yeah.
Especially if it's a longer round or
But
something.
man,
But that helped me realize, like, just by them making that comment, I was able to take that and be like, maybe just,
Not every time.
Yeah, don't make that a go-to every time.
I think
Still work it.
yeah,
but
I mean, I that's one of your best parts of your game, and when it sucks.
Yeah.
But I mean, we all have a position,
But even making up, like, kind of going back to what you said in the beginning, a passing comment can kind of go a long ways.
Totally.
Sometimes of just kind of.
That's what I would do, man. And go to the person first and just be as diplomatic as possible and say, look, this is what I'm trying to get out of this. I feel like I'm in danger of getting hurt every time I roll with you.
Yeah.
I really don't want to feel that way. And that's, And if they get no response, then, you know, and they keep doing that. And especially if you see them keep doing it to other people, you know what I mean? Because it's not just you at that point. So then that becomes a pattern of behavior. And so then, you know, you should say, hey, look.
If never it gets addressed, it just gets promoted.
It certainly does. It must be. That's okay, you know. So, because it's not fun, because everyone's trying to be, we're supposed to be learning jujitsu in there. And we are going to have times where we're going to go hard, but controlled, right? Yeah. There's times where you're the bug, and there's times where you're the windshield, right? It just, that's just the nature of it, man. So, but if there's something, you should never be worried about your safety.
Right. That's kind of the big one. And yeah, I think you're right. If there isn't a positive response to it, then unfortunately that person just loses a training partner.
That's right. And some people, you would think most people would be a little more introspective and be like, maybe I need to take a look at what I'm doing. Yeah. And then some people just don't. They just don't have whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. And even if they go on the aggro side, they're like, well, you know, you're a wuss, or you know, they find you to be weak or not down for the grind or something.
Yeah, you're probably down with that.
You don't have to have that person as a training partner.
No, but you should make the professor aware at that point, because you don't want to get put in a bad situation.
How would you do that? How would you address it with the
and let them know, like, you don't want to train with them anymore?
Yeah.
Well, I would say this. I wouldn't make ultimatums in general. I think just good communication is, you know, taking the professor aside outside at some point when you have a chance and say, hey, this is a situation. I'm concerned about being hurt. I went and addressed it with the person and kind of talked. And this is kind of the response I got, right? Yeah. And I really feel unsafe rolling with them. I just want to let you know. So if it comes about like situationals or something, I just really don't want to. That's all you need to say. You don't have to say you need to do something. You know what I mean? Just say, this is how I'm feeling right now.
Tell them, listen, you punk bitch.
Well, no, but that's all I would do. Right. Just so they're aware of how.
I would also do it in person.
Oh, of course. Oh, no, that's when you take them aside in person, for sure.
Email or text.
It's always good to do in person. That way you can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, there can actually be some actual dialogue. And also how if you, let's say you text someone to let them know something like that, it can come off completely not the way that you intend.
It comes off however they want to interpret.
Well, you're talking to the generation here. Before texting, we called people or we talked to people, right? So the whole thing, so much gets.
You had to call an operator first, right?
Yeah, we had the phone. Yeah, we had to plug in the switchboard.
1927 Belmont
Can you
Lane.
Connect me with? Yeah.
No,
not that old, but we had the little squiggly pigtail.
phones. The turning.
I had some turning rotary phones. Yeah, I had some of those.
You were like 20, right?
Those were a pain in the ass. Yeah.
You were 20?
No, I was probably a kid. A teenager. Yeah.
Honestly, you're older than I thought.
I know.
You guys still had lead toys and everything.
A lot of asbestos.
Asbestos.
Right? I know.
Every time that commercial comes on for a lawyer, you're like,
mesothelioma.
I got to call him soon.
No, I wasn't exposed, thank goodness. The lead thing's a big deal, though, dude. So anyway.
Well, okay, I think that's good advice, and I think it's
probably. I mean, there's a very good chance that the person doesn't realize that they're doing what they're doing. They're just like, I gotta win this, or I'm putting in all this effort, and they don't realize, like, oh, maybe you shouldn't.
If they're a highly competitive person,
I get it.
We're in a unique sport where we can put in max effort in a combat scenario against another. Chess match, if you will, against another person, and not like one-on-one in basketball when you're just playing a pickup game or something like that. Like, there's more risk of injury in our sport than there is in most others,
for sure.
And we can put in that max effort. And if someone's just competitive, they come from some sort of competitive environment, whether, like we said, CrossFit, they're a wrestler, maybe even just a team sport, and they're just highly competitive. They don't even realize, and then they see the upper belts, like you watch Mo and I,
what they perceive as going balls to the wall, which
right.
You guys are hard, but it's all controlled,
much more controlled.
Yeah,
you know,
And you're looking out for limb positions and everything.
Great example is Andrew and I were rolling on, I think it was Saturday, and I was in it. He had me in an omoplata, and we're making all these fine.
I was like 5 feet away from you.
Fine movements and stuff. It looks like there's definitely intensity. We're breaking grips and stuff like that. I felt my elbow clear his hip line.
Yep.
So then I feel free to do essentially a forward roll.
But you got stacked on your neck.
I didn't feel him make an adjustment of sucking that elbow back in. I didn't even feel it.
Yep.
So when I did my forward roll, which I wasn't forward rolling like most, I can almost hedgehog.
Yeah,
so I can forward roll and then go into like a hitchhiker essentially.
Roll in place almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I was doing it from a crouch, not like my knees. So there's a little bit more distance.
Yep.
Which, because he recaptured my elbow, I basically, and he was around my hip. So I felt that it was just in that moment, if I had more shoulder mobility, because I thought my elbow was out, I would be able to kind of squirm as he holds onto my hip and tries following me.
Yep.
But because I didn't have my elbow clear, I basically hit a complete wall, and he was loaded on my hips.
Yep. Which was over your neck.
Exactly. And I had to pretty aggressively verbally tap.
And I was 5 feet away from that.
You're right there.
But when you're in a bad situation.
So
and
I was able
knows
to, and he knew
to back like immediately.
Like, oh, Bill's kind of doing a crazy move here.
Yep.
And in that moment, when I have to verbally tap really quick, he's able to alleviate pressure
immediately
in a moment.
Yeah, exactly. And so that is the difference, right? And so that's what we're talking about. So it's not saying having a good competitive mindset is a good thing, because that's part of this martial art, is being, developing the dog, that mental toughness, that whole 9 yards, and then turning that loose in competition, right?
Yeah.
But know the difference. These are your training partners here, and they're not all creative. They're not all equal.
Yeah.
We're just not,
Yeah. And you want to be able to roll with that person that is fairly intense at times, because it can be a good experience, especially once you get your defensive skills and body awareness down.
It becomes like a self-defense scenario.
So you don't want to lose. Even you, as the person that like you kind of look at and you're like, that's always a hard roll.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose that person as a training partner, because they will make you better.
Absolutely.
So that's why addressing this stuff and being able to tell them like, hey, we can roll harder today, or you can have that kind of relationship that's like, I'm rolling, but I'm not getting after it today. And then your training partner knows, and okay, we keep
I
at a
talk
good
about
pace.
that all the time. Matter of fact, a couple of the black belts roll. Like, when they're like, oh, you doing okay today? Feeling a little.
Yeah.
Well, turn it down a little bit. We still get a lot out of it. That's my point. Everything doesn't have to be, or I'm gonna work something else, or gosh, there's so much more you can do instead of just having that kind of mindset of, kill at all costs.
Yeah,
thing, right?
For sure. So I hopefully that's helpful. If you guys got more questions about this sort of thing, you want us to just chop it up about, let us know. Love talking about this kind of stuff that a lot of people deal with.
Those are interpersonal things that can be awkward.
For sure. And to get the gumption to even say something can be super hard, especially if you feel like they might not be super receptive. But I think most people will be surprised about how many people, especially in this community, because it kind of brings a certain mentality a lot of the time. Not to say there's no dickheads, male or female dickheads. They absolutely exist. And yes, the sport weeds a lot of them out, but at the same time, some of them stick. And as John Danaher said, if you come in as an asshole in jiu-jitsu and you stick it out and get through the ego period, a lot of time you're just a bigger asshole that knows how to fight. That does happen, of course.
Yeah.
But a lot of time it does kind of whittle that out a little bit. So they'll probably be more receptive than you think.
No, that's a good question.
Liv, we had another question about some words that I don't even know how to say.
Oh, well, maybe I'll just let Chris take on that. But it was basically like, what is a detox? And what actually is it? Because people think green juices are detoxes and stuff like that, or like heavy or metal chelation.
Why are you grimacing right now?
The whole word drives me crazy.
Detox?
Yes.
Or detoxing your liver.
That just drives me crazy.
That's what I'm doing right now, right?
No.
With my muffins?
So first of all, what do we mean by and I'm gonna give you some background. The reason why I get all persnickety about
Do you
this
know about this topic?
a lot.
Are you sure?
Yeah, and the reason why is it's part of my medical specialty is toxicology. So I actually see people both from an environmental perspective and at work related, they get exposed to nasty chemicals, heavy metals, the whole 9 yards. So it's actually part of my formal training. I have a master's degree in toxicology on top of the doctoral degree.
Okay.
So when I hear the whole,
Yeah.
So those of you who think I'm being an asshole, I kind of am, but it just that word drives me insane when people say I'm going on a detox. I'm like,
It's completely misused. Essentially.
big time. And so the first question I ask people, like, what do you mean by that? What are you attempting to do? What does that mean? What are you trying to remove?
I want to flush out all the French fries I've eaten.
So a lot of people, in my experience, when they say that, and I ask them, not to be a jerk, but I ask them, I was like, what are you trying to do there? You know, because they ask me, well, what do you think about this detox? I'm like, I try to go, like, well, they're like, oh, well, I'm just trying to clean stuff out. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back myself into a new wardrobe.
Reset my gut.
Got it. So, but that's not detoxifying, right? You have to have some toxicity to detox. In other words, there has to be something there to remove, right? Most people mean I'm stop eating crap. I'm not importing toxic shit. I'm not importing seed oils, industrial seed oils, refined flour, all the other additives that are in processed food. And I would say that's pre-toxing.
What a dork.
I'm joking.
Recreating
I
a new
hope.
word.
Did you have the camera on him
Pre-toxing.
in that moment?
I did.
That's called pre-toxing.
Some of them hit, some of them miss.
I loved it.
I guarantee your fellow nerd physicians that listen to this.
No, they won't. They don't know what the hell they're talking about anyway.
Jonathan Kang knows what he's talking about.
About feet. So we all have our areas of expertise, right?
Yeah,
Now my mom's gonna be mad at you again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll have to tell her. So I'll have to break it to her. So
He said.
what I mean by that is you're just not putting in toxic crap in your body. You're like, okay, I'm just going to eliminate the stuff I'm putting in there that my body has to deal with. Okay, is it classified, some of them, as actually a toxicant? And by the way, there's a difference between a toxin and a toxicant.
Go on.
Toxins typically, classically, are something biological, like a toxin like bee venom, snake venom. Something like that is typically a toxin.
Okay.
In classical terminology, toxicant is used more broadly, but usually is something like, chemical or something like that your body has to deal with.
Natural compared to not.
Or, yeah, well, I mean, it gets kind of fuzzy, but in general. Or my other favorite is, I'm sorry about the massage therapists out there. The ones that I know are really good, but there's a whole bunch of them out there that say, oh, we're going to release the toxins from your body.
Oh, yeah.
And that makes me want
Aren't
to
those
scream.
illegal? Golden Spa.
I don't know
Highway
what kind of toxins
Parking
you're talking
lots
about,
in the
bro.
back.
Look, dude, the one with no windows.
Yeah.
I'm talking about legitimate massage
They're open
therapists.
24 hours. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm talking about legitimate
anyone that
professional
lives
massage therapists.
in Seattle to Everett
We know what you're talking about.
have
Bill.
seen these places.
Yeah, like neon lights and shit. Yeah, no windows. Right. So
Okay, so
but my point is, which that's nonsense, by the way, too. The toxins releasing from your body. I don't, I always ask them like, now, what toxins are we releasing? We're not.
what do you know what they're attempting?
The best
to say?
thing I can say is like maybe metabolic waste products. Byproducts of metabolism.
Okay.
Okay, but so what happens when you get a muscle release and you get kind of a head high? What's that?
A what?
A head high.
A head high.
Yeah.
You know
Bill gets it.
when you get, let's say you got a trigger point that's acting up.
Oh yeah, that's a vagal response.
Oh, okay.
And you feel that kind of like that head high.
That's a vagal response. Yeah, that's a nervous system response.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a legit thing.
I was just curious.
Yeah. No, so we're talking about
what is a vagal response? Like I don't.
Yeah, have you ever, like when you, have you ever had, when someone actually, some people like they get a shot or they get blood and they get kind of, yeah.
I'm getting it right now off this muffin.
You probably are.
Yeah.
Is that a detox muffin?
It's a vagal muffin.
God, we're going off the rails, dude. So no, but that's actually a physiologic response. That is not due to toxins or anything like that. That's a nervous system response, usually vasodilation.
Okay, so there's not some, because in my mind, how I think of it is like, oh, I just released something and then it's
you did,
because it kind of feels like your head is like, you feel like it's almost like water coming over your head.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It's your nervous system.
Okay.
Man. That is completely a nervous system response, which is a physiologic response, especially to trigger points. That happens all the time.
Is that the same thing when I dislocated my jaw and when they reset it?
Yeah.
They like the disc that's in there.
Yep.
And it had to reset, and then it had to reset with the disc.
Yep.
And I started getting like a headache.
That's different.
Okay.
Okay. That's because your trigeminal nerve is very, very close to where the temporomandibular joint is. And you probably stimulated that, which is directly responsible for many types of headaches, especially those forward headaches. Yeah, absolutely. So that is actually a nerve proximity.
Okay. Got it.
So how'd we get off on that? So no,
Start talking about massage. So.
yeah, that's how.
Your fault.
But the whole toxin thing or detoxing. So first of all, there's many things that can make clearing house, getting rid of like old stuff, so to speak. That's not detoxing. That's called autophagy. We've talked about that before. Self-eating, like during fasting,
Like
where we're cleaning up kind of
smoothie
misfolded
diet
proteins or we're decreasing our protein intake for several days. We have a molecular switch, that mTOR pathway we've talked about a bunch. That switches to more of instead of a building thing, we go to cellular cleanup, where we have like damaged cells and cell organelles, misfolded proteins. The body goes through and cleans house. That's called autophagy. That can be very, very helpful. And it's a very good process. There's a lot of anti-aging things related to autophagy.
what does a correct autophagy process look like?
Well, what's interesting is there's a couple things that one of the biggest stimulators of autophagy is very, very low protein intake for several days, or fasting in general. Will promote. You'll get into more of a ketosis thing, and then upregulate autophagy, where your body will kind of clean house.
So what are you
bit.
typically eating in that time period?
Well, you would minimize things that are activating the mTOR, especially the amino acids and stuff like that. So it would be like people would like a protein fast or just fasting, complete fasting,
And just water.
Yeah. Well, or something, or electrolytes, whatever you want to do. But that actually upregulates autophagy, which is good. What's interesting is there's some recent papers out that said, high intensity exercise in general is also a big promoter of autophagy, which is cool. So that makes sense of why, if there was ever a way to put the effects of exercise in a pill, it would be $1 trillion medication,
Right?
Because it's so good for you in so many different ways. But that's another way that's being more and more recognized now in kind of the latest research in autophagy is the effect of exercise on autophagy.
Are you compounding the effectiveness of this process by doing, let's say, I assume when we're talking about a potential fast, we're talking like a 24-hour fast?
Yeah.
Okay. Working out within that?
To an extent.
Okay.
Right? Because you don't want to, like if you want to do some low-level cardio, right, not super taxing, or maybe some strength training not to failure where you're not getting glycolytic, those heavy burning sets. Yeah. You can absolutely do that, and it can enhance the process, especially the kind of the low-level cardio can kind of...
Which could be a long walk,
absolutely,
fast walk.
That's right.
Light jog.
They call it Zone 2 cardio.
Yeah.
That is becoming so popular again.
What's that?
Zone 2. I see it all over the place.
I
again.
know, because
it's becoming in. It's
which is hilarious because I mean, it's just funny how these little fitness trends cycle around.
Huberman's been saying it a bunch lately.
Oh God, it's just like those of us that I've been a trainer longer than I've been a doctor, probably going on 30 years now.
Yeah, you were a dog trainer, right?
Yeah, train dogs. Yeah, yeah. No, humans.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's been a concept for a long time. Right. But now, it's a buzzword in the fitness influencer world. And
the whole
blah, blah.
phase thing has been around forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Cardio zones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a whole nother discussion. But some kind of low intensity cardio, walk is good. Some strength training that you're not getting into like failure, almost like the Pavel type stuff, the grease the groove type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff like that would be super helpful for that as well. But anyway, my point of this is that's another thing that people think they're doing is a detox. What it's not. It's just it's something else.
Yeah. You're not going through the quote unquote detox process. You're just flushing your system for 12 hours.
Well, you're not giving it anabolic input, so it switches over to autophagy. So it's starting to do maintenance. It's almost like spring cleaning after the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what juice cleanses do?
No.
What's a juice cleanse do?
Here we go. So many of those things that are in so-called juice cleanses, they're usually like the green juices. They have a bunch of what's the combination of like broccoli, sprouts, kale, spinach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
These phytochemicals, many of them are polyphenols. Then there's something called sulforaphane that's in broccoli. These actually work, believe it or not, to upregulate our body's own detoxification system. They are actually, if you think about what they are in plants, they're anti-predation molecules. They are there to prevent animals from eating them, basically. Human beings, over the course of a long time, almost have a commensal relationship where it's a hormetic response. We talk about hormesis a bunch, right? Where these things in high doses can actually be toxic. But getting them from plants, it stimulates the body's like, oh, we got some shit here we need to get rid of, and so it upregulates these enzymes in the liver. It upregulates a bunch of the glutathione pathways, the antioxidant type of pathways, to help clear this stuff. So it can enhance your liver's ability. It will make that machinery turn on to kind of clear stuff from the body. And the way it does that, just briefly, one of the main processes is the cytochrome P450 system. Basically, it's the first step of this detox process. When I get something in the body's like, that ain't normal. I need to get rid of that. The way it does that is add chemical groups on it that make it more attractive to water. So it blends with water. So if we have an oil, right? Oil and water don't mix well. So some of these chemicals in the body don't really mix well with water. And our main way to get rid of them is through our urine. So if the liver can make them more water loving by adding these little chemical groups, it does so. Then that's the first step in the phase one.
That's pretty cool.
And there's phase two that adds even bigger groups onto these things to make them even more water soluble. So that's the way we get stuff out of the body, through the urine, also through the feces too. We do get some, and we actually do through the sweat too, to certain things. But the liver, so these compounds upregulate those systems that do that. Okay, and so when people are drinking these green juices, and oh, by the way, this is what people like Paul Saladino and the carnivore folks are saying. Hey, these are plant toxins. They are right, and they work on us through a hormetic mechanism where, we actually get some beneficial aspects of some people. Again, it's individual. So those are what those things are supposed to do.
Is sweating one of the best, quote unquote, detox? Dang, how do I say that? Is sweating one of the best ways to detox?
No, not necessarily. Urine is the best way to get that stuff out. Yeah, okay. Actually get rid of it.
So to cleanse crap out of us.
But the whole reason is upregulating some of these things stimulating the body's systems helps that happen, right? I mean, there are plenty of things that system also can even make more toxic with certain things, like acetaminophen, Tylenol.
Yeah.
One of the things that system does is when it goes through the first pass effect, and it's modified chemically by the liver, it actually makes it more toxic. Yeah. And that's why some of these things are really dangerous. Right.
So the people that are doing daily.
So when we're talking about detoxing, it's like, first of all, my whole process is don't put the shit in your body in the first place. Okay. Processed food, all the additives, industrial seed oils, high fructose corn syrup, all that stuff that's really literally poisoning you metabolically, figuratively, and literally. Right. So prevention first. Depending on how you want to do it, if you want to do some planned periods of autophagy where you want to say, hey, every month I'm going to do a day or two of fasting. That's good. Right. Your detox. I mean, the problem is some of these plant compounds for some people are really problematic. Some people do really well with them, and some broccoli sprouts and stuff like that can upregulate those systems to help enhance clearance of things in your body. But some people have really bad reactions to them, to some things. And, they can actually cause, and some can cause damage to the gut in some people, right? And a lot of it depends on the individuality of your microbiome too. There's so much involved there. So it's not such an easy this versus, this is good, this is bad, right? Yeah. And, for me, I tend to do better on more meat-based with fruit type things, or things that don't have as much of those kind of phytochemicals in them that are pro-oxidants and actually that are less toxic. So fruits in general, from an evolutionary perspective, want to, they're that way for a reason. They want to pass their seeds on, so they want to encourage things to eat them. Where some of the vegetables have these anti-predation molecules that actually kind of prevent animals from eating them, right? And so that's the difference.
Which is the main, I won't say selling point, but argument for like that Saladino.
Of course. And it has a lot of merit to it, especially people that are prone to autoimmune disease and systemic inflammation, but again, this is individual.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I did one detox before, and it was 40 pizzas in 30 days.
Yeah. Is that yeah. So you're trying to detox yourself from life, basically?
No, I just
remove life from you.
The emotion.
It was an emotional time.
I can see. So,
okay. So, Chris.
Yeah.
What about? Because this is another big one that I see more and more. Like there's mold detoxification. There's heavy metal.
Oh, here we go. Chelation.
Yep. That one's a big one because of mercury and fish, other environmental exposures.
Sure.
Nobody.
No, we ignored that.
I didn't even hear what you said.
No, you don't worry about it. It wasn't good the first time. It won't be good the second. So chelation's interesting. So chelating agents, chelation actually means it's derived from, I believe, Greek, means claw. And what these molecules do is they bind to what we call mostly divalent cations. What that means is, I know, I'm going to tell you what that means. It's important.
Say it again.
Divalent cation.
Okay, go for it.
So there are things typically that have a +2 charge, and a lot of them are ions that are including metals, but also minerals. So things like EDTA, which is a chelating agent. It's a classic chelating agent. Do you want to know what it is?
I mean, if you're going to say it.
Ethylene diamine tetracetic acid. Okay. So what it is it has groups on it. You can think of like an octopus. And on the end of it,
animals are good.
Each one of those little ends has a way to attract ionically these heavy metals and or unfortunately non-specifically minerals too. So in my specialty, we do this a lot for lead poisoning. So when lead gets in the blood to a certain level, it's recommended because it has such bad neurological consequences that you put them on chelation to remove it. Okay.
Nowadays, why does someone get like a ton of lead in there?
Well, that's the point. It's going down and down and down. Usually it's environmental. Usually Flint, Michigan's the classic, right? With the water. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Right.
What were the Mad Hatters? Was that
That's
lead?
That's mercury.
That was mercury. Okay.
Because it was in the fumes, right?
No, it was in the lining of the hat. So using leads is an easy one to talk about, but this applies to mercury. Chelation applies to a bunch of different things. So, but especially with children, you want to identify any lead exposures really early, and you shouldn't have, it's really important to run blood leads on those people, especially if there's some concern about developmental delay or any kind of, lethargic type symptoms.
Oh, when they're really young.
Mm-hmm. It's not happening as much anymore. First of all, we've outlawed leaded gas, which was organic lead, to stop the knocking in engines. Since that's gone away, our body burden of lead has gone down dramatically. But paint chips, leaded paint, stuff like that, we've done a pretty good job of getting rid of that crap.
Because kids would then,
of course,
they put Legos in their
mouth.
Put
crap in their mouth, right. That's what
if
kids
it's painted
do.
with lead paint, then okay.
Absolutely. So we're seeing that less and less. But
did you eat paint chips as a kid?
I did not. Not that I remember. So maybe I did, and I can't
Mama
remember.
Hardy, can you call in, please?
No, I was a pretty good kid, man. According to my mom.
It doesn't make you bad if you ate paint chips. It just explains a lot.
I think my brother was more of the paint chip dude.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see it.
By the way, he's trying to get me on a HIPAA violation from putting out all this stuff.
He reported you?
He called me and goes, hey, this is whatever, some 3-word law firm, we're going to have a, I was like, shut the fuck up.
If he needs a witness, just let me know.
No, it's like, you're not my patient. I'm not your doctor, so whatever.
Put you on blast.
That's right. It was pretty funny, though.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're seeing, but when we do see it, like I had a case several years ago when I got to this state. I can't talk about any particulars, but there's a group of people that were exposed at work, big lead, a lot of lead. And some of them had to be chelated immediately. Right. Now, chelation is not without its risks because you can remove non-specifically things you need, like calcium. That's kind of important. And if you don't know what you're doing with chelation, you can remove, like, for instance, if I removed a ton of calcium, even though I'm not trying to go after calcium, it's non-specific. Calcium is still a positive 2 charge. And these things like EDTA will grab onto calcium just like they will lead or mercury or anything like that. Copper, they'll take care of, iron.
Right.
Depending on the valent state of iron.
But pretty much all the metals that are in our
system. So some of them you need, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is you get real low on calcium, you can have major problems neurologically and heart-wise with conduction and all kinds of stuff. It can be fatal. There's been hypocalcemia that's been fatal for people after chelation.
Wow.
So
Dang.
It's rare that it's fatal, but it's not something that, people are always going, I'm going to remove all the heavy metals. It's like, well, dude, unless you have an exposure that you know of or suspect, some people are like, well, I have arsenic. I'm like, okay, what kind? Inorganic or organic? It's important because this is a problem. This is a pet peeve of mine too. They'll get their doctor to draw an arsenic level on them and, oh God, it's high. And they freak the hell out. Right. And then, they're seeing,
I know Rogan has that story.
They're seeing me in occupational medicine or environment, not in my current practice, but at Hopkins, I did an environmental medicine clinic where, you can have inorganic arsenic well water poisoning, which is bad. You need to take care of it, right? Stuff seeps into the groundwater and all that. It's a big deal.
And I think Rogan's elevated.
Organic. So organic arsenic, if you eat seafood.
Yeah. He was doing anchovies, I think.
It could be a lot of things, man.
He said he'd do a can of anchovies a
totally.
day.
And then you can have your arsenic levels up. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not toxic like the inorganic species are. So they'll order this arsenic, but they didn't speciate it. They didn't say, okay, was this organic or inorganic? because it makes a difference. Because if it's inorganic, I'm like, oh shit, where are you getting this from? Right? Where are you being exposed to this? If it's organic, I'm like, what are you? I just ask them, are you eating seafood? You eating fish? You eating, they're like, oh yeah. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
If you're worried about it, stop eating that. Go down. But, but chelating people just because you think you have a heavy metal burden I don't think is a good practice personally. And it's not, there's people trying to do that for, there's a whole study on trying to do it for heart disease. Like, well, I'm just going to remove the calcium from your arteries. Maybe, but you can remove calcium from a lot of other things too,
right,
that you need. So I personally don't think it's a good practice. And Carrie doesn't do it either. A lot of her patients come in and asking for them. They're like, well, my hair sample said this. I'm like, those are notoriously unreliable, first of all. They'll get hair testing done.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff has not been validated to be accurate to describe your body burden of this stuff. Okay. Because that's what matters. It matters these things in your inner organ. And by the way, most lead is sequestered into the bone. 95% of your lifelong burden of lead is sequestered into the bone. So if you think you've had a previous lead exposure, and
does that make your bones stronger?
No, no, it doesn't. Let's say you had lead exposure as a child, but and your blood lead levels have been good for a long time. But then let's say you start developing osteoporosis or some other bone loss type of thing, you'll start mobilizing that stuff out of the bone into places, soft tissues and blood where it can cause problems, especially into the brain. Then with that history, if someone has complaints, then I would check a blood lead to see if they're mobilizing it somehow. Okay. But you don't just go ahead and just start chelating crap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I have an additional question then. So does the average person, well, there's two questions. Does the average person, like, who hasn't had lead exposure and maybe their only mercury exposure is through eating canned tuna fish or sardines or whatever, like, do they need to be going through some sort of, because heavy metal detox, I can't explain to you how popular that is.
I know how popular it is. Carrie gets asked every week.
And then the other thing is what about fillings in your mouth?
Yeah, the amalgams, the mercury amalgams. Yeah, and so they actually had a study, and what's interesting is removing those things, just like from your bone, because that's where lead also gets deposited too. I know we're talking about mercury, but these things also get deposited in the teeth. So you're probably releasing a whole bunch of that stuff. There are ways to remove that. I'm not a dentist, but I know there are ways to try to mitigate the amount of spillover as you're removing it. You're just increasing that mercury burden in your body. It's in there. I'm not an expert in that about mercury amalgams. Most of them, we're not putting them in anymore. But I have some in my mouth. I'm not freaking touching them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to leach at high. I mean, we need high levels of stuff to cause a problem. That's what people. It's very much like, we're filled with a bunch of crap. That's why we have livers and we have good elimination systems just for that. And to go and just try to it's almost like the frequent the hygiene, people that are ultra hygienic, right? And try to, sterilize everything. That's not helpful. Yeah. It's not doing me any good. Same with, you're never going to get rid of all. We live in an environment of, what about microplastics? What about all these other things that we have in our environment that are, you could go crazy thinking about it.
Yeah.
I would say the best thing you can do is keep all the foundations, exercise, good nutrition, don't import toxic crap. And then, and if you tolerate it, go ahead and periodically upregulate your, real detox enzyme systems with some very deliberate, like I'm going to do maybe a couple days of sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts or something, if you tolerate it.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan of this. Oh, trust me, there are clinics that make their entire living doing chelation therapy.
Yeah.
And Carrie, as I know she's a naturopath, and some of her colleagues do this crap, but she's also a biochemist. And so she's like, she says, if you want to do that, you can go elsewhere. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
She doesn't believe in it either. So.
You have a question
from. Oh, yeah. I guess there is another question. Sorry, sidetrack. So, bringing it back to the systemic proteolytic enzymes, would that help somebody who has microscopic colitis?
Interesting. I don't know.
Okay.
I'd have to look it up. Think about what we're doing though with any of these things. Which ones are we talking about? Right?
Like which
Which
form?
specific enzymes are we talking about?
Oh, okay.
Is it nattokinase? Is it bromelain? Is it papain? You know what I mean? I don't think there's a downside to any of that to try it out.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't seen it studied. The problem is there's not a whole bunch of literature on this.
Yeah.
For a lot of different conditions.
I mean, it did. So I looked up a brand, and I noticed though, like in their side effects, they're like nausea, dizziness,
Of course.
vomiting, like everything possible. I'm like, when would this happen? Like to somebody, like why would someone have that type of a side effect if they took a systemic enzyme?
People have side effects to anything. Why are some people allergic to peanuts?
Okay, so there's not necessarily
The
like
government.
It's more so like this could happen, but it probably won't.
I haven't had any problems with it. I mean, anything you take that's new to your system theoretically can cause nausea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it depends on, a lot of it I think has to do with the state of the microbiome. The state of are you producing enough stomach acid? Are you on proton pump inhibitors, right? All these things can kind of contribute.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you have anything else?
I don't think so.
I'll have to look up that. Send me a question on my text so it reminds me to look up that specific thing because I don't know.
With that, like and subscribe. Ask questions. Let us know what you want us to talk about because we'll talk about it. Otherwise, we're free balling. Right, Liv?
Yep.
See you later.
You're free balling.